Threat assessment is all about understanding just how likely it is for an expressed threat to escalate into harmful action. But to do this effectively, it is important to assess the totality of circumstance that goes beyond the phrasing of that one particularly creepy communication. So to help aid in this effort, here are 5 things to keep in mind whenever you are looking to determine if a threat is real. Number 1, take all threats seriously. A threat is a threat no matter how it was communicated. And no matter how benign or insignificant it may seem at the time, any inappropriate communication should be documented, recorded, and reported. Take a screenshot, email them to yourself, send them to a friend, and get a second opinion on what you should do next, because you may not be seeing the big picture clearly when you are inside that whirlwind of concern. 2 heads are always better than 1. Number 2, is this person expressing a threat or do they pose a threat? Think of the difference like this. If you cut someone off in traffic and then they start yelling and screaming and honking their horn, then give you the finger as they speed off past you, that person has expressed a threat. But if you cut someone off in traffic and they stay right behind you and go white-knuckled and glared while they follow you home, that person poses a threat. And understanding the difference between these two is a crucial component to determining the level of inherent risk. Number 3, look for any indication of an underlying grievance. Someone saying they want to kill you, or for you to F off, or that they hope you die, are upsetting statements to hear, but they don't communicate any indication of a grievance. More often than not, these statements are an emotional outburst. There's little thought behind them. These types of inappropriate communication often stem from a fleeting burden of angst the individual would rather displace onto you than have to bear themselves. But a grievance would be something that would serve as a specific justification for their threat, something like, "You ruined my life, now I'm going to ruin yours." Remember, a threatening person with an underlying grievance is a concern to take seriously. Number 4, look for signs of leakage. Leakage is a pre-incident indicator, a warning sign of a preoccupation with an unresolved grievance. If you are the target of a threat or some other kind of inappropriate communication, a best practice would be to do some research. Look online, Google their name, search for their handle. Look at what they are posting or tweeting or putting in their stories. Sometimes the biggest protective intelligence comes from what they are saying to others about you rather than what they are saying to you. In threat management, indirect threats tend to be a greater source of concern than direct threats because the aggressor is often looking for sympathy for their plight. They're field testing their justification for moving forward, crowdsourcing permission for their ideation to harm you. So take leakage seriously, because this kind of violent ideation is often the most accurate indicator of an aggressor's intent to harm you. And number 5, how much intimacy exists in the threat? This is what is known as the intimacy effect, which basically states that there is a higher degree of intimacy, that the higher the degree of intimacy, the higher the degree of risk. So ask yourself, what is the relationship between the author of the threat and the person being threatened? Was there a romantic relationship? Did you work together, have lunch together, live in the same building, go to the same school, or work out at the same gym? Was there ever an instance of violence in your history together? This factor is important because the higher the degree of intimacy coupled with any kind of stalking or threat is a greater indicator of lethality than either behavior alone. So to recap, take all threats seriously. Determine if the person is expressing a threat or if they pose a threat. Look for any indication of a grievance. Look for leakage, and determine the level of intimacy. The bottom line with all of this is to simply participate in your own safety. Don't ignore or avoid those things that threaten you. Face them head on. The first time may be hard, but the second time will be easier. And by the third time, you'll be empowering others by showing that if you can do it, they can too. And working together, we can all prepare today for a safer tomorrow. Interested in learning more? Subscribe to Corson's Corner podcast, where each week I deep dive into a protective strategy that can help you succeed in staying safe.